Hey guys, I'm starting out this video with a webcam video because I've had a terrible month. Let's just extend this to the whole month. I didn't get to upload today because I just had a really horrible experience, and yeah, it's 1 a.m. and I just got home. So I'm uploading on Sunday, obviously, and I will probably tell the story on Tuesday because this video is already long and I already look like trash in the video, and I just want to get into the video. This video is terrible. I look terrible in the video. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm wearing a John Deere hat and my mother's shirt because I make horrible decisions. I make the worst decisions ever. God, I make the worst decisions. And I guess I'll talk about it all on Tuesday. And Tuesday's probably gonna be a long video. Because my life is literally a mess. My life is the biggest mess. So let's just slide on into the video.
Hello, and welcome to Serious Saturday. Yes, I know I look horrible. I'm wearing a John Deere hat, and whatever this is, you don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me that I look bad, okay? Alright, let's slide on into the video. Welcome to Serious Saturday again. I have Eeyore here with me to help me tell this disappearance story, and he's gonna help me well. So, today's topic is the Sodder children disappearance, and as today I'm doing a disappearance. Next Saturday I'm going to do a unsolved death or murder, and then the next Saturday I'm going to do a serial killer, and then I'm gonna start it over with a disappearance and have a rotation. So I'm gonna be honest, I've filmed this video 4 times already. My voice is hurting because I've been screaming so much today. I've had a bad day. Every single time I filmed it and edited it, it ended up being 20 minutes long, and I don't want to deal with that. I know you don't want to deal with that. So for the sake of both of us, for our sanity, I'm going to leave out some details. I'm going to leave out details that I do not find interesting or important. If you want the full detailed story, I will link BuzzFeed's video on the Sodder children disappearance down below in the description. And you just have at it with that BuzzFeed video. Okay, let's just slide on into the information. But today's topic is the Sodder children disappearance, and I'm going to read a quote from one of the articles I read about from, English. This is my handy dandy notebook, and it contains the secrets of the universe. Just kidding, it doesn't. It just contains my notes. For nearly 4 decades, anyone driving down Route 16 near Fayetteville, West Virginia, could see a billboard bearing the grainy images of 5 children, all dark-haired and solemn-eyed. Their names and ages: Maurice, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jenny, 8, Betty, 5, stenciled beneath, along with speculation about what happened to them. George and Jenny Sodder immigrated to America from Italy when they were both younger. They met here in America, and they had 10 children together. They lived in Fayetteville, West Virginia, a small town with a small but active Italian community. And George, even though they were a very highly respected middle-class family, George kind of pissed some people off in the community by what he would say about the Italian dictator, Benito Mussolini. Benito Mussolini was dictator from about 1922 to 1943. The most important piece of information is that on Christmas Eve in 1945, all the Sodders, except for one of the oldest, who was in the military at the time, were together in their house, and the house caught on fire. Well, 6 of the Sodders made it out. And these 6 were George, Jenny, 2 of their oldest sons, their oldest daughter, and their youngest daughter. The 5 remaining children, their ages ranging from 5 to 14, were never seen again. Now, you're probably thinking, did they just die in the fire? It gets complicated. Nobody knows what happened to the Sodder children. It's a disappearance, but it's also like a death. I'll explain it. So during the fire, George tried many times to get back into the house and save his 5 children. He ran in through the front door and noticed the staircase was on fire, so he couldn't enter the house that way. Then he ran outside to go to his ladder, but his ladder wasn't there. Little did they know, it was at the bottom of an embankment 75 feet away. He tried to scale the house and ended up cutting his arm. His last resort was to pull up his coal truck beside the house and use that to climb into the window, but it wouldn't start. So his oldest daughter ran to a nearby neighbor's and called the operator to call the fire department. That didn't work because the operator couldn't be reached. A nearby neighbor saw the fire and tried to do the same thing at a tavern. Couldn't reach the operator, so that neighbor went and found the chief in the flesh. Just say in the flesh. The fire chief started a phone tree and called every firefighter, but it took them almost 7 hours to get to the fire, and by that time the house had burned down. The house burned down in 45 minutes. And the fire chief did a quick dig of the site, and he found no remains, no bones, nothing. No signs of the children. The fire chief told the family that the children perished in the fire and that their bones were completely destroyed. You can't burn bones. You cannot destroy bones with fire. When you're being cremated, you can burn the body for 2 hours at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and you'll still have skeletal remains. The cremator has to manually crush up your bones. And I did my research. When the Twin Towers fell, Ground Zero burned for 100 days. And they still found skeletal remains. But in a house fire that lasted for 45 minutes, like, I get that the ground could have burned for 7 hours. Like, I don't know if it did. I don't know if it just went out. I don't know how house fires work. Never witnessed one. Knock on wood. I don't know how house fires work. I don't know if they just keep burning after the house has collapsed. I don't know what happens. Still, whether it burned for 45 minutes to 7 hours, you should have found skeletal remains of 5 children. Jenny found her old kitchen appliances. They weren't usable, obviously, but they were recognizable. And, like, how can 1945 kitchen appliances still be recognizable after a fire, but human bones are supposed to be disappeared? They also ruled it as an electrical problem. And this is weird, because a few months before the fire, a man came to the home trying to sell George family life insurance. When he said no, the man told George that his house would be engulfed in flames, his children destroyed, and he related all of this back to George's ill speakings of Benito Mussolini. A bit after that, another man came to the home looking for work, and went around to the back of the house and pointed to 2 fuse boxes and told George that this would start a fire one day. This is where it gets really weird. On the night of the fire, Jenny was woken up by a call. The call was from this woman who seemed to be at a bar or something. Jenny heard glasses clinking and laughter and just loud noises in the background. And the woman was asking for someone that Jenny didn't know. Jenny didn't recognize the name of this person, so Jenny calmly said that she had the wrong number. And the woman burst out in hysterical laughter and hung up. I don't think the call itself is that significant because I read online that they found the woman and that it really was just the wrong number. But the fact that the phone was working and what I'm about to tell you next. When Jenny went back to bed, she noticed that all the lights were on and the doors were unlocked. And she knew that this was really weird because her children usually took care of that because they had stayed up later that night, and she was like confused. She locked the doors and turned out the lights and noticed her oldest daughter was asleep on the couch. She thought all was well, and she went back to bed, and she claims that she heard something hit the house and roll. That's when they think the fire started. If the fire would have started from electrical problems, the lights wouldn't have worked, the phone wouldn't have worked. It doesn't make sense. Like, the fire started so shortly after that, and they reported that their Christmas lights were working during the early stages of the fire. The weirdest thing of all is that the man who tried to sell George family life insurance was on the coroner's jury. The coroner's jury are the people who ruled the house fire as an electrical problem, an accident, and the people who issued the death certificates for the 5 missing children. That's so weird that that man was on the jury. And the man was never investigated. Like, in my opinion, the police investigation and the fire investigation, it was just all shady. Like, everyone in this case was shady. Even George Sodder himself was shady to me. Like, he was so secretive about why he left Italy. The older brother was also shady to me. So, in the older brother's first police interview, he claimed that he ran upstairs to the attic where the 5 missing children slept and told the children that the fire had started, and then ran back downstairs and left them in the fire. But in another police interview, he said that he never actually saw the children and that he just yelled up. Like, I get if he changed his story to, like, console his parents or, like, not feel guilty, but who runs up there and is like, hey, there's a fire in the house, and then runs away? The youngest one was 5 years old, and this guy was 23, and he couldn't help his 5-year-old sister get out of a fire? That's just sketchy. Like, the fire was ruled later as not an electrical problem. A man told them that as he was driving by, he saw someone throw balls of fire at the house, which when I read that, all I could think of, like, was a warlock that was like pew 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 sending balls of fire like through the air. Like, that's all I could think about. But it's just so weird that someone would report seeing balls of fire being thrown at a house. All I could think about was warlocks. But later, Sylvia, the youngest child, found what seemed to be a pineapple bomb at the scene. The Sodders found more reasons to believe that their children were alive, aside from the lack of remains. So, the night of the fire, a woman in their community claimed to have seen the children in the back of a car, peering out a window, driving away from the fire. Another woman came forward and said that she served the children breakfast the next morning at a tourist stop. She said that the car that they were in had Florida license plates. Another woman came forward and said that a week after the fire, the children stayed at the hotel that she worked at. She said that they were with 2 men and 2 women, all of whom appeared to be Italian. And when she tried to speak to the children, the men started speaking in Italian, and then the whole party just ignored her. George investigated most of the leads himself. He hired a private investigator to look into the case more, and all the private investigator could come up with was the insurance salesman being on the coroner's jury, and the fact that the fire chief planted a beef liver at the side of the fire in hopes that the Sodders would find it and it would give them closure. Shady, right? After the fire, George had 5 feet of dirt put over the site. Later, during the investigation, they found human vertebrae at the site, and after George sent it to the Smithsonian Institution, they came back to him and said that it could have been from a male who was 16 to 22 years old, but his oldest son that was missing was 14, and they said it was unlikely that he would have had that developed of lumbar vertebrae. Then they noticed that it wasn't touched by fire. The most substantial piece of evidence was something that was sent to Jenny. The letter was postmarked from Kentucky, but it had no return address. But inside was a picture of a man about 20-ish, 30-ish years old. And on the back of the picture it says, "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. Ill Lil Boys, A90132, possibly 35. The man looks strikingly similar to Louis. They have the same features. Obviously, he's a lot older than the last time they saw Louis. Some people think that it's Louis. Some people think that it's an imposter, someone just messing with the Sodders. A lot of people think that the mafia took them. My math teacher thinks Clifford the Big Red Dog ate them. I explained all the peculiarity on the case, and he said, well, maybe their neighbors had a dog. And I said, what dog is big enough to eat corpses of 5 children? He was like, well, maybe it was Clifford. I was like, yes, Clifford the Big Red Dog ate 5 children. We've solved the case. We have solved the case.